It is 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. Nicola Sturgeon says she had no prior knowledge of the police's intentions to arrest her husband. Peter Murrell has been questioned by police as part of an ongoing investigation into the finances of the SNP.
This is a difficult day for the party, but again, I just reiterate and emphasise it's so important for me not to comment on a live police investigation.
Also tonight, at least 850 arrests connected to online child sex offences every month are revealed in new data seen by Sky News. We have a special report.
I felt dirty. That was how it made me feel. That I've been with somebody who has done those things.
A giant barge will be used to house 500 migrants in Dorset. We get the reaction from some asylum seekers in the UK. Walking side by side to victory, a message of strength from the Ukrainian president in his first visit to neighbouring Poland since the war began. Trump gets a boost in the polls since being charged in New York. We take a closer look at the case and what it means for the presidential election. And the King and Queen Consorts, soon to be Queen Camilla, get a tour and a taste of Yorkshire. Plus, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview at 10:30. Good evening. There have been police vehicles and an evidence tent outside the home of the former Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon today after her husband Peter Murrell was arrested and questioned in connection with the funding and finances of the Scottish National Party. Mr Murrell stood down as the SNP's chief executive last month following a long investigation by the police, but has tonight been released without charge. Now, Ms Sturgeon has said she had no prior knowledge of the arrest and will not be commenting on an ongoing investigation. The development, though, has given Humza Yousaf his first big test as the new First Minister and leader of the SNP. Sky's Scotland correspondent Conor Gillies reports.
It is the home of Murrell and Sturgeon. Until last week, Scotland's political power couple. Now, the epicentre of a police probe. The occupants were out and the detectives were in. Peter Murrell, the man who was the SNP's chief executive for decades, was in custody for 12 hours, questioned before being released over the party's fundraising and finances. This, the first big test for the new First Minister, Humza Yousaf.
I was told this morning after the event, and of course my reaction, as you'd imagine, much like anybody involved in the SNP, is that this is a difficult day for the party. But again, I just reiterate and emphasise it's so important for me not to comment on a live police investigation and be seen to prejudice that in any way, shape or form.
This is the SNP's Edinburgh headquarters, also at the heart of this investigation. Police posing questions about £600,000 raised for a second referendum campaign. This is an extraordinary moment, an embarrassing episode for a party known for its discipline. The question is, will this probe overshadow Nicola Sturgeon's legacy after more than 3,000 days in the highest office? And will she too face questions about what she did or did not know?
I mean, I led the SNP for a long time, so I'm very sad about what's happening to it, and indeed about what it's become. But we should remember the cause of independence and the case for it has never been stronger, and that's what myself and Alap are concentrating on putting forward.
Here, Nicola Sturgeon questioned in one of her last interviews as First Minister.
But there's a suggestion you and your husband will be interviewed. Have you heard anything on that?
No, but I am not going to comment on... I wouldn't comment on any ongoing police investigation, and I'm not going to comment on this one.
Have you been...
Questions too on the day she resigned.
I'm not going to discuss an ongoing police investigation. I wouldn't do that on any issue, and I'm not going to do it now. Thank you.
She has now issued a statement saying she had no knowledge of Police Scotland's actions or intentions, and she will fully cooperate if required. But this is the couple's back garden, police bagging evidence amid a 2-year investigation, culminating in the arrest of a man once in charge of Scotland's biggest political party.
Well, Connor is live for us now in Glasgow. Good evening to you, Connor. So it's been quite the day for the SNP.
Absolutely. Detained Peter Murrell at 7:45 this morning and released just before 7 o'clock this evening in a day of questions for the former chief executive of the SNP, questioned under caution for 12 hours. And that was the question around whether the prosecution service and detectives here in Scotland, what they would do at that point. Would they apply for additional time for questions? Would they bring about any possible charges? Or would they release Peter Murrell without charge pending further inquiries? And it was that latter option that police here in Scotland took. This tent that we were seeing in my report there is usually reserved for very major police investigations. It has been a day of drama. Nicola Sturgeon has said herself that she will cooperate with the police if they come looking for answers and wanting to pose further questions. But she has not been seen in public at all throughout the course of today.
OK, Connor Gillies for now. Thank you. Well, in new data seen by Sky News, it's been revealed that there are more than 800 child sex abuse arrests every month in England and Wales, and about a third of those arrested have children living with them at the time. In an exclusive interview, a senior police officer has told Sky News that families of sex offenders are often the hidden victims of their crimes, and if authorities don't get it right, the impact on children will last for the rest of their lives. Katerina Fitozzi has this special report.
Families call it the knock, and it's life-changing. Police at the door is the way most families learn their partner or parent is suspected of online child sex offences. It was the way the nightmare started for Jessica and her 3 children, who were all under 12.
I felt dirty. That was how it made me feel. That I've been with somebody who has done those things.
And for your children?
And for my children the same. Again, especially my daughter, because that was... How do you even begin to comprehend? That was somebody who was an amazing dad, and somebody you look up to has done something like that.
New data shared with Sky News shows that every month in England and Wales there are more than 800 arrests in connection with online child sex abuse, and researchers say that 35% of those people, that's about 300 a month, have children living with them at the time of their arrest. And the stigma and shame of their parents' arrest and offence can be traumatic.
We had to move away. We had to move schools, we had to change our names. And when I went to see Daddy in prison, I wasn't allowed to sit on his knee.
I am not allowed to say his name in school because I will get attacked by my friends. Everyone says I can't love him, but I can't stop.
Their stories are hard to hear, but these children aren't defined as victims under the current Government Victims Code. In fact, they get less automatic support, things like counselling, than the offender does. In an exclusive interview with Sky News, the British police lead on child protection says families of sex offenders are hidden victims and they could be legally defined as such.
That's under discussion. That's clearly a matter that comes under statute, under the Victims Code. You know, almost the removal of a parent out of their house in such a dramatic and impactful way clearly requires mental health services for children. We will also very much focus on the children and the partners left behind, as you describe, who are the hidden victims of this.
Some forces recognise there's a gap here, but a new report found that police support schemes aimed at families are still missing children.
Police forces and also officers and staff are missing opportunities to make sure that children who have access to suspects or who live in the home, that they receive the right information and the right support.
The government says there are no plans to adapt the Victims Code to incorporate families like Jessica's, who feel invisible, vulnerable and very alone. Katerina Vitozzi, Sky News.
Now, the Home Office has confirmed it has leased a barge big enough for 500 asylum seekers, which is going to be docked off the coast of Dorset. The government argues the accommodation, described as basic and functional, will be better value for the taxpayer than offering rooms in hotels. But 2 people currently being housed in hotels have told Sky News that they would refuse to move to the barge. Our communities correspondent, Lisa Holland, has this.
It's not just the government talking tough on the asylum crisis. The man in the orange top from Sudan is the self-styled leader of this group of asylum seekers.
They feel angry every day.
Between them, they've all moved from 2 hotels in East London, where there were standoffs with the Home Office, refusing to leave before finally agreeing to be transferred to new accommodation an hour and a half away. They say they won't move to another hotel, let alone a barge.
If you get asked to move again to another hotel, what will you say?
No, I can't move. I can't move. I will make protest. All the people here, I invite them to make protest in front of hotel.
What do you say to people who say your accommodation is being paid for by the British taxpayer, so the government can send you to whichever hotel they want to?
I have been near to be 2 years. How can I move?
You're saying you're settled?
Yeah.
The Home Office won't say exactly who is destined for its 3-storey floating barge, the Bibi Stockholm, currently in port in Genoa in Italy. It will be berthed in Portland Harbour, much to the opposition of Dorset Council, and house 500 asylum seekers in what the government describes as basic accommodation.
We're bringing forward alternative sites, like indeed the barge that we've announced today, that will save us money and indeed reduce pressure on hotels, all part of our plan to stop the boats.
Currently, £6 million a day is being spent on housing 51,000 asylum seekers in hundreds of hotels. This man from Sudan has been in 6 of them in 3 years.
If the government tries to send you to a barge, what will be your reaction?
No, I don't want to go. I don't want to go anymore.
You say you don't want to go, but what will you do?
I go homeless.
By homeless, he means he'll disappear from the asylum system, living outside of society, something we're increasingly hearing from people who also say they're afraid of being sent to Rwanda. Yet hours before the government's barge announcement, Sky News filmed 3 boats packed with migrants leaving a beach in Dunkirk in northern France. Those who successfully make the journey will arrive as the government continues to unveil a strategy aimed at deterring people from trying to cross the Channel. Lisa Holland, Sky News.
Now, the Russian President Vladimir Putin welcomed his Belarusian counterpart Alexander Lukashenko to Moscow today to begin 2 days of talks. But in their opening remarks, both men avoided mentioning Ukraine, saying they'll discuss the war tomorrow. Meanwhile, President Volodymyr Zelensky has visited Poland in his first official visit since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Well, Poland has provided 4 Soviet-designed MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukraine, and the Polish president said more planes were being prepared. Our correspondent Siobhan Robbins reports now from Warsaw.
From the start, this was a meeting of friends, a display of warmth, of solidarity. In Poland, President Zelensky was treated to a hero's welcome as he visited his closest neighbour. His counterpart gave him the full red carpet treatment. The troops greeted him as a respected leader. And outside, some of the million Ukrainian refugees given shelter by Poland were among fans hoping to get a glimpse of him.
I'm very excited, honestly. My heart is beating right now. I want to see him. I want to see him at least like from the distance.
I think he's a really superhero, like a nowadays superhero, like he's an amazing man.
The Polish president clearly shared their sentiment, presenting one of Poland's highest awards to Zelensky, who in return was deeply thankful.
I want to thank you for the fact that you, our powerful neighbors, did not and do not allow us to break, for the fact that you help us. If Ukraine falls, we know that Russia will not stop there and will go further.
And there is a lot to be grateful for. A few hours away in the Polish countryside, Ukrainian troops were being trained to use Leopard 2 tanks. Poland's been instrumental in helping to secure weapons and aid for Ukraine. A small price, according to President Duda, for the sacrifices being made across the border.
No one expected Ukraine would stand for so long. The defenders of Ukraine would be so heroic. The defenders are heroic because the president turned out to be heroic.
Deals were also done to supply more weapons in the future and build a lasting relationship. This trip isn't just about reaffirming friendship, it's also about building credit for the future. The longer the war goes on, the more it affects people living in neighbouring countries like this. And Ukraine knows it has to keep the public on side to ensure support going forward. For now, that isn't a problem. Zelensky has stolen the hearts of many in this nation. Siobhan Robbins, Sky News, Poland.
Now, there's been more violence at the Al-Aqsa Mosque tonight as Israeli police entered the compound and tried to remove worshippers. Video on social media has emerged which appears to show Israeli police beating people inside the mosque last night. Ramadan and Passover coincide this year, and there are fears of a further escalation in violence. Now, a warning that this report by Sky's Middle East correspondent Alistair Bunkle shows police appearing to beat worshippers.
For a second night running, Israeli police and Palestinian worshippers clashed in Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in Jerusalem. The sight of Israeli riot police attacking Palestinians inside the prayer hall during Ramadan has put Jerusalem and the Middle East on edge again. Israeli police say several hundred men illegally remained in the mosque after prayers on Tuesday night, and they initially tried to negotiate with them to leave. Al-Aqsa Mosque sits on top of Temple Mount, the holiest site for Jews. At this religious time of year, many Palestinians fear that extremist Jewish groups will come and pray at the site as part of a movement to slowly push Muslims out of the compound. Some of the worshippers refused to leave. They were armed with wooden clubs, rocks and fireworks, and so the police went in. The clashes went on into the early hours of the morning.
What you feel when you see the soldier beat your son? What? Angry? Sad? What?
Nobody can deny that. This is terrors, police terrors.
In response, rockets were fired from the Gaza Strip into southern Israel. Most were either intercepted or landed in open ground. One hit a factory, but there were no injuries. The Israeli military hit back, striking targets belonging to Hamas, the militant group which controls Gaza.
The resistance sent its message in gunpowder last night by responding to the aggression. It's a clear message to the occupation. If this aggression continues, there will be a large, open-ended war with the Zionist occupation.
For a second year running, the holy Muslim month of Ramadan and the Jewish festival of Passover coincide. It was always going to be a tense period, but especially after violence has been escalating in the West Bank this year. Jordan, as custodians of Al-Aqsa Mosque, called for an emergency meeting of the Arab League. Israel says it doesn't want an escalation, but is ready if it happens. Alistair Bunkle, Sky News.
I want to just bring you a little bit of breaking news that's come in the last few minutes. A story that we've been bringing you throughout this evening about the Conservative MP for Blackpool South, Scott Benton. He was involved in a sting operation, as you can see here, put on by the Times newspaper. And it now transpires that Mr Benton has been had the party whip suspended pending an investigation by the Conservative Chief Whip, Simon Hart, following the publication of this footage. It appears to show in the footage Mr Benton offering to lobby ministers on behalf of the gambling industry. Scott Benton is the chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Committee on Betting and Gaming, and as we can see from this footage, held a meeting with a fictitious company that was looking to influence ministers around a change to the law that's been long in the works for how the gambling industry is regulated. Mr Benton held that meeting, and from the footage that has been released by the Times newspaper this evening, seemed to be willing to lobby ministers and offer sensitive information to this company ahead of the publication of that new law. Now, Mr Benton did not receive any money and said that once he had held that meeting with those undercover journalists, did refer it to the parliamentary committee responsible for approaches for these kind of things. But in the past hour, Simon Hart has confirmed, the Conservative Party Chief Whip, that Scott Benton has lost the party whip. Now, Donald Trump is going to be in court again on the 4th of December after pleading not guilty yesterday to 34 counts of falsifying business records. Now, despite his legal issues, he still wants to be the Republican nominee in next year's US presidential election, and some even think that what's going on could help his chances. Our US correspondent Martha Kellner reports now on the case that's dividing America.
The circus was familiar, but the circumstance unique. The former president speaking for the first time as a criminal defendant, walking to the stage like a boxer to the ring. And this was classic Donald Trump counterpunching, light on the facts and heavy on the attacks.
I never thought anything like this could happen in America. Never thought it could happen. The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it. This fake case was brought only to interfere with the upcoming 2024 election, and it should be dropped immediately.
It's impossible to get inside Donald Trump's head, to know what he's really thinking beneath the bravado, but somewhere behind these walls at Mar-a-Lago, he is still digesting the full detail of the case against him.
His allies in the tabloid media have come out to back him. They think these are trumped-up charges too. Polling shows those who supported him before still do.
Would this indictment affect whether you vote for him or not?
No, not at all, no. It just seems like a ploy by the Democratic Party trying to make sure that he's not able to run.
Side by side in restaurants and bars across America, people with wildly different views.
I was in high school when George W. Bush was elected, and I remember thinking, like, oh, this is terrible. Like, we don't want someone who's conservative in office. Like, I disagree with this man. And I am now longing for the days of a Bush, junior, senior, Reagan-esque country.
But in the Sunshine State, there is the possibility that Donald Trump could be eclipsed by a rival close to home. Ron DeSantis, Florida's governor, a man with Trumpian politics, is also likely to run to be the Republican nominee in 2024.
Oh, I absolutely would vote for Ron. But I think it would do us all, or would do the Republican Party justice if Donald Trump would just step back and promote a new candidate.
Trump, though, remains the most likely challenger for the White House, despite the possibility that he may be on trial when campaigning begins. It would be another breathtaking chapter in a political career which continues to divide this country. Martha Kellner, Sky News, Florida.
Let's take a look now in some more detail at the case being brought against the former president. Our data and forensics correspondent Tom Cheshire has been analysing the charges.
Donald Trump pleaded not guilty to 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree in a New York courtroom yesterday. Now, we'll get to the consequences, the questions raised by the case, but let's start with the charges. Now, each count has to do with payments to former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen, who's already served prison time for paying hush money for the president to former adult film actress Stormy Daniels. And that is probably the best-known case. $130,000 was repaid to Mr. Cohen after he paid Miss Daniels to stay quiet about her alleged sexual encounter with Trump back in 2006. Mr. Trump denies he slept with Daniels, but he has acknowledged paying Cohen the money. Another payment, $30,000, was made through AMI, American Media Inc., the corporate parent of the tabloid newspaper National Enquirer. That was to buy the silence of a former Trump Tower doorman who was claiming, apparently falsely, that Trump fathered a child out of wedlock. And prosecutors also claimed that AMI paid Playboy model Karen McDougal $150,000 in exchange for her agreement not to speak out about the alleged affair with Trump in 2006. And District Attorney Alvin Bragg described this practice as a catch-and-kill scheme to boost Trump's electoral prospects. This involves identifying negative information, buying that information through means like hush money, and then suppressing it. Now, all of that might sound familiar because we have heard a lot of it before. But usually these would be classed as misdemeanors, falsifying business records rather than felonies. But they're being charged as felonies because the New York prosecutor wants to prove the records were falsified with an intent to commit, aid, or conceal another crime. In this case, the DA says the crime was attempts to violate state and federal election laws. Now, each count carries a maximum penalty of 4 years in prison. But even if Trump is found guilty, many legal experts think it's unlikely he would serve prison time. And the case isn't expected to go into trial until next year. So it could be well into the 2024 presidential campaign before we have a conclusion.
Tom Cheshire reporting there. Now, the King and Queen Consort have been in Yorkshire today, meeting people in the town of Malton. It was revealed last night that the Queen Consort will be addressed as Queen Camilla after the coronation. Our correspondent Shingi Marike has been finding out what people think of the change in title.
The King and Queen Consort stepping out to the sounds of a traditional Yorkshire brass band and a warm welcome. Seen in public for the first time since news of a new title for Camilla. One confirmed, cemented and celebrated on this coronation invitation, sent on behalf of Their Majesties King Charles III and Queen Camilla.
Yes, I like to work with citrus flavour.
They were in Malton today, meeting independent food and drink businesses, sampling some treats as they went along.
And so Charles drank the coffee and he had some gin, so we've had to buy, of course, what Charles had, haven't we?
People here say the change of title is a moment she deserves.
I mean, she's married to the king, so
yeah, I mean,
it is what it is as well. So yeah, I think
bit
it's
of a change.
New for the country. So
I think she's earned it. I think it's his choice. It's his wife.
For experts, this is simply about following tradition.
This shift is actually kind of just giving her her proper title, if we can call it that, because we talk about King Charles, so it's natural to say Queen Camilla rather than Queen Consort. And you only have to look back to the Queen Mother, Queen Mary, Queen Alexandra before that, and it's just the normal way that Queens Consort are referred to.
It's a time that has heralded so much change, but with this, certainty and clarity. From the day they're crowned, they will simply be the King and Queen. Shingi Marike, Sky News, Malton in North Yorkshire.